This has been causing a conflict with my entire family. And they think that I'm being selfish and unreasonable. Let me explain first. I, 39, lost my son in 2019 due to a chronic heart condition. He was 15 years old. It was devastating and I just couldn't take it, especially when my family did little to nothing to support me during these difficult times. They didn't bring my son meals when he was at the hospital. They didn't let me go home and rest even for a few hours. They didn't take care of other things. Well, I had a lot to deal with. I wasn't offered any help, just words. They just talk but do nothing. Despite the struggle, I've created an account for my son's college fund and kept putting whatever I could get at the time, and me and my son would talk about that a lot. He was depressed, but always believed that he was going to get better and continue his education and attend college. I started saving money to keep him motivated and to make him feel like he could be like any other kid with hopes for a good future. He had a very close friend that's about the same age as him. They were friends for 5 years, and I can't express how his presence in my son's life helped him through the worst days. Sometimes his friend would spend the night with us and try to get my son to do activities and lighten up his mood all the time. To be frank, his friend was closer to him than his own family. He never stopped visiting and asking how I'm doing after my son's death. He'd show me handmade projects he made for my son and as a way to remember him, and we'd sometimes just sit and talk together or cry together. Last week, while I was with my family, my sister asked me what I was going to do with my son's college money. I didn't want to mention this, but since she asked, I told her that I will be giving the money to my son's friend. She barely even recognized his friend and was confused and said that my nephew deserves this money since he's family. My mom agreed that I wasn't thinking straight and that I should help the people close to me family and that my nephew has a right to go to college, and I was wrong for giving this opportunity away to someone else. I didn't know what to say. They kept pointing out that I was making a mistake and how my nephew will resent me if he finds out. Thing is, my nephew wasn't close to my son. I don't even know why he'd be bothered. My sister went on about not being able to afford my nephew's college. I told her this was my decision and I felt more comfortable that way. She started lashing out, constantly texting me, constantly wanting to talk to me and ending up arguing. When I snapped, she had my mom calling me, basically guilt-tripping me and telling me I'm wrong and that I needed to think about this. It's just too much pressure and I'm feeling lost and unable to figure out how to deal with this. Not the idiot, 100%. This child was there for your son. Made your son feel good. Made your son happy. His friend is a good person. Your own family did nothing to help you. They do not deserve the college fund. You know that story about the hen who has to grow everything alone and bake the bread alone, then she's awarded with a feast. Well, the animals who refused to help her had to sit and watch. That's what this is. You're making the right decision. Don't let family who wouldn't help you guilt you into giving them the fund. Not the idiot. Just because they are family does not give them a right to your son's college fund. Where were they when your son was having bad days? Did your nephew come stay with him? Did he help him in any way? Were they really good friends? From your post, all these things point to no. It is your money and your decision. If they ask again, you can tell them you decided to keep it and it's none of their business. Shut down any further discussion on the topic. It's your sister's responsibility to ensure her kid goes to school, not yours. You are definitely not the idiot here. I'd be ashamed to act as your family has. It was your money to begin with, and you've every right to do with it as you see fit. Your nephew has no right to it simply because you are related, nor do you have any moral obligation in kind. The money was intended to better your son's life, either through college or through the exercise of planning. Clearly his friend shared the desire to improve your son's life, and it's natural he is the most worthy benefactor here. We have been friends for 5 years, and in the whole time she's known me, I've never taken my hijab off around men from outside my family. I have taken it off in front of her before, but only because I was only around women, and she knew this was the case. When we were trying on bridesmaid dresses, I offered to wear a different dress to the other bridesmaids or wear a covering over the dress, so they didn't all have to conform to my needs regarding the modesty of the dress. We settled on all wearing a dress that I could wear, as the bride wanted us to match. I was happy that they accommodated me, and none of them seemed to mind wearing a more modest dress than they might have worn otherwise. Yesterday I asked a bride if she wanted me to wear a scarf that matched the dress or of a different color. She was startled and told me she was expecting me not to wear a hijab because when she said she wanted us all to match she thought I understood she meant not just the dresses, but that I would not be wearing a hijab. She also said that she thought I would be okay with it since I took my hijab off while trying on dresses, which I only did because I was only around women and I was trying on some dresses that go over the head, so I felt the hijab would have fallen off anyway. I said that if I could not wear a hijab as a bridesmaid, I would not be able to be a bridesmaid. My friend is now frustrated as some of the other bridesmaids have made alterations to the dresses and cannot return them, and she would have wanted them to wear a different dress if it were not for my modesty needs. She's also annoyed that I have backed out as now there is an uneven number of bridesmaids and groomsmen. She says she tried her best to make a compromise with me, the modest dress but no hijab, and I should have explicitly said I would need to wear my hijab and not taken it off while trying on dresses. I think she should have explicitly asked if I would go without before committing to a compromise I didn't even know about. Am I the idiot? My matron of honor was 11 months pregnant, not really but huge. My sister got a tacky tattoo right before the wedding. We had an uneven number of attendants and no one cared. Certainly not me, because unlike OP's awful friend, I actually wanted my favorite people there because I loved them like crazy and wanted them to help me kick off my marriage, not because I was trying to stage perfect photos. Not the idiot. Give her one more chance by telling her you and your hijab would love to be there. Not the idiot, she made a presumption without clarifying with you first. She assumed that you'd forego the hijab for modest dress. She was wrong. It is not your fault that you figured she understood what your hijab represents and perhaps noticed that you never went out in mixed company without it. It was a miscommunication and they happened and this cruise, but I can't see how her being mad at you for it is going to do anything. I think wearing a matching or coordinating hijab would be fine. Not the idiot, I don't care that it's her special day, your faith is more important than bridesmaids matching. You were accommodating by offering to wear something different and backing down without making a fuss. This idea that you can just remove your headscarf around whoever and whenever shows a great misunderstanding of Islam and what wearing a hijab means to a lot of Muslim women. Since you're in her bridal party, I assume you two are close friends. Knowing that, I'm surprised she didn't try to educate herself on your faith and your reasons for choosing to wear a hijab. I'm a software engineer working at a well-known tech company that a lot of people want to work for. It kind of screws being one of 2 women engineers here, to be frank. I'm friends with the other woman and she's equally frustrated. But HR at my company asked me to be on a panel at a recruiting event where people can ask us questions about the company. We'd be recruiting interns and full-time employees. I said I didn't think I could, I had other work commitments that day. But they were pretty insistent, saying that they wanted my unique experience on the panel. So I went, and overall things went as expected, with one exception. The girl who looked like she must have been a freshman or sophomore in college asked a question. She looked right at me and asked whether I thought company had a good supportive environment for women in engineering. I started to say, that's a. And right away, the 3 guys I was on the panel with started jumping right into saying how everyone is treated like an equal, how anyone who does good work gets respect, etc. Now, to be totally honest, that has not been my experience at all. Same goes for my only female coworker. I looked at these 3 guys who were talking about our experiences without seeming to know the first thing about them, and it frustrated me. So I took my microphone and said, from my experience, you'll have to be comfortable speaking up when others try to speak over you, especially when you're the one with actual expertise on a subject. I won't sugarcoat it, it'll take us more work and more guts to succeed in this industry. I see that changing, but unfortunately it's a gradual change. The topic quickly moved on, someone else asked a question, and I didn't think too much of what I'd said. It was honest, it was a lot more diplomatic than some of what I could have said. It was hopeful for the future, even. But after the panel finished, a couple things happened in quick succession. First, an older lady who said she was a project manager for a software team at a bank came up to me and said she appreciated my honesty. I talked with her for a little while, then went to meet up with a carpool of my coworkers going back to the office. In the car, they all started getting frustrated with me for saying what I did on the panel. Now, these guys aren't on the same project as me, we've never worked together directly. But they were saying that a panel wasn't the place to bring up those frustrations first. I said that we're making a lot of assumptions, my supervisor already knows about that and more. I didn't think I'd said anything too shocking. I know I made a dig at them with a bit about people speaking over you. But it didn't seem too offensive to me. I am worried this will become more of an issue at work. Am I the idiot for the comment I made? Not the idiot. Fact is, engineering and even IT services like desktop, service desk, networking, and security are still male-dominated. The company can be all about that equality all they want, but at the end of the day, you are spending hours alone with your mostly or all-male team, and it's not exactly hard to notice when they are being bros and you're not part of the club. And when that new promotion or special project comes up, bros get recommended, not you. Not the idiot. They displayed one of the most frustrating things that happens. I've been in IT for over 20 years and totally get it, I mean, are they that stupid? I started to say, that's a. And right away, the three guys I was on the panel with started jumping right into saying how everyone is treated like an equal, how anyone who does good work gets respect, etc. Yet they completely and utterly disrespected both you and the only other woman there. I hope HR gives you a medal. I would love for you to come back and give an update on how things go. Not the idiot. I'm a female electrical engineer working for a large German engineering company. What you said was completely accurate and is not company specific. If they're getting into a STEM job, it's better to hear this sooner than later because we all deal with it at some point. One of my senior colleagues at work, who happens to be a middle-aged white man, will never speak to me directly. Even when I ask a question, he looks to the nearest man and says the answer to him. Colleagues have started to notice because it is so ridiculous. Recently, my 22 boyfriend, 24, started talking about marriage. We have been together for 2 years and we are in no rush, still getting to know each other every day, so we have never brought marriage up in conversation. Well, I am currently on antidepressants and have been since a tragedy in my life when I was 17. I started going to therapy and processed some of the things that also happened in my childhood. My boyfriend knows all of this and is very understanding, always making sure I don't forget to take my medication and to check if I haven't forgotten to bring it on vacation, etc. When we started bringing up maybe someday getting married, he casually said, "But I really can't marry someone who is on antidepressants." This had me totally floored and a little bit confused since he has always been supportive of it. He went on to talk about how he doesn't think that it's right if I'm on my medication my whole life, as he put it, and especially not if we are going to bring children into it. He also said that I don't really need the medication if I just get over my problems. Hearing him talking about my issues like this really got me frustrated. In the heat of the moment I said, "So you're saying that you can't marry me because I'm me? And because I need some extra help in my everyday life? You're basically saying that you don't love me for who I am. Even if who I am is someone who needs medication to function, that's just not acceptable to me, and you're being an ignorant idiot." Then he started to get really mad, mostly because of the whole "you don't love me" thing, and it ended in a pretty bad argument. It's been a couple of days since this conversation and he is still convinced that I'm wrong and that it was a really crappy thing of me to say. So, am I the idiot for what I told him? Not the idiot. Break up with him immediately. If he says just to get over your problems, he obviously will not be able to support you in a tragedy. I know you have invested a lot of time in this relationship, but better now than when you are married and some tragedy happens and he just says get over it. Or, when you do plan on getting married, he tries to talk you off the medication you need. The other people there will support you as he did without thinking you should just get over your problems. No idiots here. I get it that it's hard to deal with and from your perspective sounded hurtful, but I feel like you are not seeing his perspective at all. I can totally sympathize with wanting to get your life in order before marrying and having kids, which is basically what he wants. The perspective of having children with someone who could potentially not be stable enough to do so is not really something anyone should want. You are basically telling him to love your depression, and honestly, making it a part of who you are does not sound like a way to recovery. No idiots here. I'm honestly not sure what your mental health status is like. Nothing is wrong with antidepressants, hell, I've been on them since my late teens. But I will say I don't necessarily think he's the idiot. I've been with a few people who really struggled with their mental health, like I'm talking about people who take their meds and still pick up and leave for 3 weeks straight, no contact, or people who take their meds but still can't manage to hold down a job. Not everyone can handle that or want to base a life around it. Schools are shut, we're in lockdown, and I'm playing teacher. My daughter is 13 and doing a project on World War II. It's basically a critical thinking piece about why it is important to remember the atrocities, with also room to argue that we should be able to forget about it and move on. I feel incredibly strongly about remembering World War II for a variety of logical reasons I won't get into, but also I'm quite an emotional person who wants to remember. However, for the purpose of this project I try to stay unbiased. My daughter, who is generally a clever and kind person, just wasn't getting it. I looked at the reading material and it was all very, I don't know, dull, I guess. Watered down. Far removed. Later on, she was in a video call with some school friends saying learning about World War II was a waste of time. Essentially the gist was it's boring, it's in the past, and we don't have to deal with this sort of things nowadays. I heard one of her friends say, I don't think it's even as bad as the textbooks made it out to be. At that moment, I guess I decided to take a more hands-on teaching approach. The next morning, I sat her down and asked her to tell me everything she knew about World War II and to tell me how she felt about it. I realized that she wasn't taking it seriously because in her eyes is ancient history. We don't have Jewish ancestry, much, and great-great-grandparents are long gone to tell us firsthand how it was, even from a British perspective. I set about finding a way to humanize it for her. We talked about Anne Frank, I ordered her diary. I then started searching on YouTube and found footage of concentration camps. This included footage of dead bodies, emaciated people, bodies being flung into huge graves, naked Jewish people with their heads shaved. We watched interviews of those who had protected and hidden Jewish people and those who had been in concentration camps themselves and lost their families. I'll be honest, she cried and I felt happy. Not because I want to see my child sad, but because she finally felt that pain. She'd had that sobering moment. We talked for a long time afterwards about why such a large group of people went along with it, what made them do it, who were the bad people, and how it was allowed to happen. For me, it was a success. She was quiet that evening, yesterday, and not her usual chirpy self. My husband noticed and she told him why. Well, my husband lost his mind that I'd shown her such graphic videos, said that I'd scarred her for life, and how could I not see how abusive it was to show her these videos as punishment for her being a normal kid and not taking history seriously. From my perspective, I see how awful the videos were, but I just wanted her to understand and feel passionate and educated and not just roll her eyes at arguably one of the worst events in living history. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. There are two schools of thought here. One is that a 13-year-old shouldn't be watching that level of violence. The other is that we don't do the newer generations any favors by sanitizing the atrocities their lives are built on. But it's not like this was you letting her watch a violent movie or something. This is stuff that actually happened to real people, and if there's a more effective way to drive home to someone just how serious that period in history was, I don't know what it is. Dude. Not the idiot. She's 13, not 3. You weren't showing her tortures, and from a purely graphic standpoint, there are worse things in PG-13 movies than those YouTube videos. The thing that makes the videos horrifying is the fact that they're real. Those were real people with thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Their humanity is what makes this crap both difficult and important. Some things in life are hard to look at. They still happen though, and refusing to look at them leads to people forgetting how bad they were and what the human cost actually was. This might be an unpopular opinion, but learning about the atrocities of World War II should scar you a bit. It should shake you a bit to learn about the reality of that horrible time in our history when 60 million people died violently. Now, I don't know your daughter, but I doubt this has scarred her for life to the point that it will prevent her from living normally forever. She will likely be fine, and it's okay to be sad about the tragedies of the past, the suffering of other people, for an evening or a day. Not the idiot.